I watched The Creator last night. Gareth Edwards. Let me double check. Yeah, Gareth Edwards, filmed by Gareth Edwards, starring John David Washington. Now, my how I felt about the film was actually how I felt when I saw the trailer, which had me even hesitant to go see it. It visually looked stunning, and I was unsure about the story, about the acting, character development, which to me is one of the most important things, in my opinion. For me, it's like the performances, the acting, the writing. It's that is the foundation, and as well as cinematography, obviously, because if you can't see it and you or sound, you can't hear it. It's like, what's the point, right? But it all starts for me at the core of those things. So I'm not trying to talk about a hierarchy like one is better or more important, but for me, those are foundational. And I think foundational is distinct from important. So that's what had me not. And then I heard lots of things. I heard lots of articles and buzz about how the visual effects were extraordinary. And then I looked into it, and Gareth Edwards, he got his start with the film Monster, where he, I believe, DP'd, directed, wrote, and was the visual effects artist, which is just like, whoa, that's a lot, right? And John David Washington, bless his heart, I don't think he's a very good actor. And I've talked about nepotism before. It's really, I think he's gotten better. I remember him in Tenet, and it was hard to watch for me. And I'm not saying this to be mean. I'm not saying this to be judgmental. I'm just sharing my opinion, obviously. Well, he's talked in interviews about, my dad didn't give me anything. His dad is Denzel Washington. He's a Nepo baby. And I have this thing about certain Nepo babies, the way they defend and try to prove or justify, like, I got into the industry on my own accord and I worked hard and they didn't give me anything. It's like, yeah, but you're Denzel Washington's son. He didn't help you, and you were literally on set with him for Malcolm X on Spike Lee's set, like as a 9-year-old. Like, that is the world you grew up in. Like, you grew up around those types of people in the industry, literally seeing you from like when you were a young child. And I actually know someone that went to college with him, and he didn't study acting at all. And I don't have a thing that if you don't study acting at all that you can't be an actor. But I just get irked by this. It's almost like this entitlement or this arrogance that has people, and I see people do it all the time. I see comedians do it. I see wrestlers do it. I see pop stars do it. I see models do it. Anybody can be an actor, right? I mean, how hard can it be? Yes, anybody can be an actor. I believe anybody can be any type of artist. But I would never go to a Broadway show with some epic dancing, and because I know basic dancing and have taken basic fundamental dance classes and have rhythm, and be like, oh, like, let me just wing it. Let me just wing this choreography. And then have it be okay that I was like cast as this lead dancer, even though I'm doing the moves wrong and I'm mediocre. So for me, I have no problem if people want to go into acting, but get some training. Like, don't be so arrogant, and don't be so that you can't get, that will keep you from being vulnerable enough and raw enough to be like, maybe I'm not so good at this thing. And like, it's going to take something, right? Because usually what has actors be motivated to keep getting better and better and better is that they want to elevate their career and they want to book more things. But if you from the get-go, because already of who you are given leads in films like blockbuster films like Tenet and The Creator, where is the motivation to be vulnerable and uncomfortable and say, I'm going to work with a coach, or I'm going to take an acting class, or I'm going to get trained in this? There's probably not much motivation there, unless you do pride yourself in being really good and challenging yourself and being good at a thing, right? Because I've always been that way. It's like, I believe no matter how far I get, like, there's no top to the mountain. Anyways, ramble. It's like 2 hours and like 13 minutes, something like that. I kind of half watched it. Gonna be totally honest, because especially if I'm watching something at home and it's streaming, and depending on what it's nominated for, if it's not nominated for Best Picture or Best Screenplay, etc., I'm not gonna watch it with the same context. I'm not gonna watch it and I trust myself. Like if I turn off, if I zone out and I'm not engaged, and I watch all types of movies. I don't mean it doesn't take much to keep me engaged. That's not what I mean. But then I just trust that it's not very good. So anyways, the story was pretty cliche. I liked the point they were trying to make about AI and different species and different groups of people and prejudice and the way that you can blame and make one type of person an enemy. I thought that was interesting. I thought the younger lead, I don't know, actor, was extraordinary. The little kid actor was extraordinary. Act circles around John David Washington. And so, yeah, I thought the story was cliche. I thought the dialogue was really cheesy. I thought the performances, mainly for John David Washington, were mediocre. And I didn't care about the characters. And I saw Godzilla -1. It's possible to have these sci-fi monster movies, action-packed, where you care about the characters when it's well done. It's one of the most important things. It's the most important thing. And so anyways, I didn't care about the characters. I thought the kind of shoo-in of making his wife be I still am not even quite clear, the carrier of the AI savior messiah was confusing. Obviously, I'm not really explaining it, but that aside, it was not nominated for Best Picture. It was not nominated for Best Writing. The sound was cool, good, but it didn't stand out to me as wow. But the visual effects were extraordinary. It's nominated for Best Visual Effects. The best visual effects. The visual effects are extraordinary. There were so many moments where I was smacking myself in the face, this. I know this is green screen. I know that this is fake, but it felt so real. It really, really did feel like I was completely in that world. And that was really cool. So kudos to them. And kudos to whatever groundbreaking thing that it took to do that. And but this is my final thought. I mean, it's not my final thought, but movies can highlight and have certain aspects of the films that are groundbreaking in whatever aspect that it is, like visual effects, costumes, makeup, and they can still be a good film. So there's something that's there for me. There's something that's there for me a little bit about how it feels like, and I don't know if I don't even want to say as of late, because it's I've only really been paying attention to this, however many past few years. And I haven't been alive the entire time the Oscars has been going, and I haven't looked at every single year statistically. That would be something that would be fun to do. And I probably would do it because I am a nerd like that. So the point that I'm making is, I feel like even if just the performance of something is, someone's nominated just for the performance, but the film is awful, shouldn't there be some sort of slight standard where the film is decent and we're recognizing this actor? The film is decent and we're recognizing the visual effects. It's it just feels a little bit like we just keep lowering the standard lower and lower. And obviously I do think that even if the film is not good, but there is an aspect of it that's extraordinary, I do think it should be recognized. But I don't think that I think we should always have the the striving towards the whole thing being really, really great. And uh like I'm thinking of like perfect example, Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris. I saw that movie last last year. Last year it was nominated, I believe, for costumes and at the Oscars. And that was a really great film. Overall, the structurally, character-wise, heartfelt, like it was like it had really good like Rotten Tomato scores, reviews, like and even without looking at those, like I really enjoyed it. Like it was a very for what it was, I really enjoyed it. Overall, it was a decent, good film. So let's have that be what we're striving for. And here's the thing, I fully get that sometimes we can have the intention for something to be great and it could show up on the page and like really work on the page. And then for whatever reason, the execution, whatever. But I just wonder sometimes, and I think about this probably for actors too, if you reach a certain point in the entertainment industry where it's like, I'm Spielberg or I'm this or I'm that, right? I think maybe people's ego gets in the way of them asking for notes on a script or asking for, hey, what do you think about this? Do you think the characters are developed? Like, do sometimes those people create in a vacuum? And, I'm a Spielberg fangirl, so it probably doesn't happen to him. Just kidding. But it's like, when I see a movie like that made, it's like, that went through multiple executives and probably multiple rewrites and I hopefully multiple really close, good writer friends that said, and nobody said, hey, I think these characters are kind of one-dimensional. Hey, I think this dialogue's like pretty like bleh. Like, and who knows, maybe they knew it. Maybe they're like, we know it and we're just gonna ride and depend on the fact that this is, visual effects, right? So, anywho, creator Carly, critic Carly, that's my 2 cents.